Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we're privileged to have with us Ian Altman, who is a keynote speaker and author. Welcome to the program, Ian.
Mike, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. I love the time of year when you're wrapping things up and looking over the fence, so to speak, into the next year. And at this point, we're kind of really on the cusp of 2018. And I'd like to talk to you about your article on Forbes on the trends that you're foreseeing. And for anyone out there interested, you only need to Google the words business trends, and you will find this article. That's how well-positioned Ian and his content is. So give us a little bit of background on yourself, and then let's merge right into what you're seeing as business trends moving into 2018.
Yeah, I started my first company in 1993. We became a Fast 50 company by 1998. It's one of the 50 fastest growing companies in the Washington, D.C. area. We then started a software company, and by 2005, a group of investment bankers decided that it'd be a good idea to acquire my company. They did so for cash and stock and asked me to serve as managing director of the parent company. Over the next few years, I grew the value of that business from $100 million to about $2 billion. And I realized pretty quickly two things. One is that I enjoy growing companies more than I enjoy running them. And two is I wasn't spending as much time as I wanted to with my wife or my kids. And so I literally stopped, did nothing for 6 months. I served as president of a country club, which sounds like a good idea. But if you want to take something you thoroughly enjoy and learn to hate it, run it.
Yeah.
And so now I am fortunate to be able to work with people all around the world on how they grow their businesses. So I get to help them grow them, but I don't have to run them.
I love it. I love that introspective aspect that you noticed, and it really is true. People notice it all the time, which is, when you do something for fun, that's great, and it seems like that would be wonderful. You go on vacation to wherever, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but if you lived here all the time, all the fun and the sizzle kind of comes out of it. So that's a really, really good point. Let's talk a little bit about your article. Some of the points, obviously we're not going to hit on all of these. We could take hours upon hours on that, but your very first trend that you're seeing or foreseeing is AI, artificial intelligence. Why is that so relevant, and how will it drive the customer experience?
Well, so for if you look back historically, people would talk about artificial intelligence or AI as a thing of the future. And what we're realizing now is that things that used to be pie in the sky or theoretical are now very practical and very real. So it's all of a sudden gone from being something that would be aspirational to I can actually implement it today. And what businesses are starting to realize is that it's not about how do I take the human interaction out, but instead, if I use AI properly, I can actually create a richer, better customer experience, because all the mundane tasks that would take a human being a long time, artificial intelligence is really good at. So, for example, if I want to schedule a route, then I profile a company called GPS Insight in the article, and they make it so that in the places where their customers are using their technology, instead of a telecom company telling people, we'll be at your house between 12 and 8, they can say to the client, we'll be there between 12 and 2. And we're going to text you a half hour before the meeting. Well, how does the technician have time to text people? They don't. They're using artificial intelligence to do that. And when the tech is supposed to leave in the next 15 minutes, the app reaches out to him and says, hey, are you still on track? And the guy says, nah, I'm running a few minutes late. It's probably going to take me 10 minutes longer. Great. Well, now they've proactively communicated to the customer. The customer says, yeah, I'm going to be there. And everyone ends up better off. And the interesting dynamic is that not only is the customer happier, but the employee is happier, because if you walk into a service call and you could be the best technician in the world and you get there 3 hours later than the client thought you were going to be there, it's probably going to be a horrible experience for you too.
Whereas if you had just given them the heads up, it might have been like, oh, I'll just knock this extra project out in that 3-hour time frame, no problem. So I think that's a really relevant example, because too many people think artificial intelligence is, taking over the world from machines, and the humans are now standing out in the cold. But the example you gave, that's just purely customer service, and if that's run without 4, 5, 6, 7 interactions with customer service and the field and the customer, boy, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah, Mike, and the thing is that what you get to start doing is you start thinking more about, well, can I personalize this experience for the customer? So if I wanted to personalize everything for my website for every single customer and I had to do it manually, it'd be impossible. But with AI, I can say, you know what, based on Mike visiting this page and that page, and based on what we've seen in his habits so far, he's probably going to be interested in this type of content. So I'm going to provide that to him. So artificial intelligence is like when you go onto Amazon, and Amazon says, are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. And Amazon all of a sudden says that, hey, you may want to look at these other products also. That's artificial intelligence that says, you know what, based on your buying behavior, other people have also bought these other things. So we don't feel that's impersonal. In fact, quite the contrary. We love that.
And it really is that engagement that you're mentioning there, which rolls right into number 2 of live interactions with social media. And I think a lot of times people condemn social media because you are impersonal, you can click like, you don't need to, have coffee with someone. And I think that there always is going to be that need for, let's get to know someone personally, whether it's on the phone, whether it's, in person. But where are you going, and what do you recommend with the communities that are embracing live interactions with social media?
Well, there's a few trends that all kind of have a common theme to them. So the idea of live interactions, we used to think, oh, people are doing all this stuff on social media, so conferences are going to go away. There's going to be less human interaction. And there's a few things that we've noticed, which is it's actually made people crave that live human interaction even more. And then there's an element of live interaction creates different learning opportunities. So I talk about how social learning outperforms remote learning, meaning, wow, if I end up where we're actually having an interaction between meetings, it tends to be more impactful. So if you think about it, I can teach anything in a textbook, but it's when the employee who's been there for 10 years is sitting down with the employee who's been there for 10 days while they're getting a coffee, and they say, oh, here's how you solve that problem. That's the real institutional knowledge that you don't get just via remote learning or in these more sterile environments. So that social interaction in person at events as well as in the social learning environment tend to be huge. And then there's a component here we're seeing where we've all seen how much live streaming has become attractive. And, anytime I do a Facebook Live, I get exponentially more engagement than if I post an article. And people just want to be part of that live interaction. And so last year I said, look, video becomes essential. And this year it's, look, video isn't even enough. It's got to be live video.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because you've heard over the years, video, and that's where the trends are heading. And then now the live streaming with the Facebook Lives, et cetera. In fact, I think isn't Facebook coming out with or beta testing like your own live station, so to speak, where you can, have your own, literal portal to teach and train through.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there are all sorts of different platforms, not even just Facebook, that support this environment. And fundamentally, what all this does, it allows us to take, in any type of business, these platforms allow us to take our subject matter experts and put them at the forefront of our business. Mm-hmm. And now people can interact with them and get to know those subject matter experts even before they meet them. So they become kind of a rock star. And it's interesting, when I speak at a conference or event, people have seen so many videos and so many interactions, they come up to me like they've known me forever, which is really flattering. But guess what? The guy down the hall from you can do the same thing now. So they have the ability to communicate their expertise digitally and get people to know them so that the customer doesn't say, oh, here's some salesperson coming at me. They say, wow, this is a subject matter expert, and it's worth my time to meet with them. And that's something that I can't emphasize enough for businesses, which is the subject matter experts. I predicted this last year. I said subject matter experts become the new rainmakers. So salespeople have noticed it's harder and harder to get appointments, to get in front of people. But the subject matter experts, people will block out their calendar to meet with that person. So we want to make sure that we take advantage of it that way, and we make it easy for the subject matter experts to establish their brand online, and live video tends to be a great way to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the subject matter experts, because it really is you taking your literally your knowledge and expertise, but from your own perspectives, because I would venture to say that you could get 10 subject matter experts on one topic, the same exact topic, and if they all gave them their little spiel of 15 minutes, let's say, they would all have different nuances. So that's the beautiful part with content, is you bring your own life experience and business experience to that, and it really is the same end result, but it becomes more alive to the audience based on how they're approaching it. Kind of like that old example of the blind men touching the elephant, and they all describe something different. No, it's a wall. No, it's a hose, because that was their perspective. So where do you think, I totally agree with you on live video and social media. Where do you see the audio, the podcasting fitting into that with developing your platform of social subject matter expertise to your audience? Because there are the people that aren't in front of their computer for the Facebook Lives, and they need to download it to their iPod and listen to audio.
Exactly. So the thing is that we know that we can't stream video on a plane, and no one should be watching a video while they're driving, but you still have that opportunity for learning. So we can either just sit back and listen to music in our car, or we can say, you know what, I'm going to stream this podcast and I'm going to pick up something. So one of the things I always say is, look, if we don't make it entertaining and engaging, that's going to suck for somebody. But if we can make it entertaining and engaging, then it's like, hey, you know what? I'm getting a little entertainment. I'm getting some education. I'm getting things I can think about in my business. And I'm doing it while I'm working out at the gym. I'm doing it while I'm on my commute anyhow. So I don't necessarily have to carve out additional time for it. It allows me to drive and do that at the same time, or work out, take a run, take a walk, whatever it happens to be. And that level still becomes incredibly valuable. Now, what I would argue is that sometimes I see people trying to be a catch-all instead of, I forget who coined this phrase, but the riches are in the niches. So the more you can create niche content, you might have a smaller audience, but it's your audience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think kind of omnipresence ties into that. You don't want to have omnipresence with respect to being all things to all people, because then a confused mind doesn't buy, and they don't know really what you really are good at. But the omnipresence ties your subject matter expertise into having that podcast, having that Facebook Live show series that you're doing consistently, having the articles you can have published online on your blog, because I think that different people are going to learn differently, and probably if you were to get all of your target audience / customers to literally fill out a survey, which we know would never happen, but if you were to get that data back, so many people would go, you know what, I could care less about whatever medium. I always, and fill in the blank with the medium they like, and it would probably be a mixture between, I love audio. Some other group says, I got to live off of video, and that's how I learn. And then other people would say, give me something written. I need to read it. I need to read it. And I think that is something that people need to keep in mind, and not just focus on that one channel, right?
Absolutely. And you want to think about what kind of problems or challenges does your audience face that you can help them address. So one of the trends I point to is companies are being rewarded when they're serving the community, not just buyers, meaning they're creating content for everyone in their ecosystem, not just, oh, what's the buyer's journey and where are they now? So I want to create content that helps people go from step 4 to step 5 so they buy our stuff. Well, the problem is it's too obvious when that's happening. Mm-hmm. And so if you say, well, so the people in my audience look like this, and here's their kind of persona. And so people with that persona probably have these sorts of questions. And if I proactively address those questions, then I'm going to engender trust with those people and deliver value to them. And if that's all you do, that's great. I mean, I always tell people, look, if people watch a video that I post or read an article and that's enough to help move the needle for their business, then I'm thrilled that happened. And if they need or want more of what I do, that's great too. But I don't regret that, all I did was help somebody grow their business and they didn't need additional help.
Yeah.
That just means that person didn't need as much as someone else did.
That reminds me of the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, by Chet Holmes. And one of the stats I remember from that is, I think he mentioned 3% of people at any given time are in the market for what you're doing. So everyone's clamoring for that 3%, but that's the other 97%. You might have, a certain percentage that will never need your product, but a large percentage will need it, but just not now. And maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's 9 months from now. But if you become that educator and advocate for your community, your target audience's success, so that they're understanding things, then when they're ready to buy, they're coming to the person that helped them, educated them, and didn't push them with buy, discount coupon and deadlines.
Exactly. And I'm often asked, well, how do you create urgency with a client? And I always say you can't create urgency. You can only help the client become aware of urgency. So you can work with them so they say, yeah, this is urgent for me. But if they don't believe it, it doesn't matter what you think. So you can't convince someone, you need this sooner. I mean, you think what I try to think of it is a medical metaphor. So I could offer the absolute best surgery for tennis elbow and the fastest recovery. But if you don't have tennis elbow, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But guess what? If that person was a tennis enthusiast and had read some of your articles, watched some of your Facebook Lives, listened to some of your podcasts, and knew that, doggone, if I ever get tennis elbow, I'm calling that guy, then they're scrambling to find you and where's that one article that I read from this guy, because now they're ready. But you had to lay that groundwork first.
Exactly. I mean, I get people, because obviously I write articles every single week and have for many years. And people will say to me, well, what kind of business do you get out of this article or that? And I say, I don't really think of it that way. I think of it as, what are the questions people are asking that I can answer for them? Yeah. And if I do that effectively, then I'm building a community of people that I'm serving, that eventually someone says, hey, would like him to speak at our event. I'd like him to come in and work with our team. And that's all good and well. But if you're constantly thinking about how you serve the community, it'll all work out in the end.
Exactly. Well, as I started off our conversation, we could probably speak for hours and hours on, all of these trends. So let's wrap up with this. You are a keynote speaker. What is the typical audience that brings you in? And then what is the best way that people can reach out to you and learn more or connect with you?
Well, so I'll answer the second one first, which is the best place people can find me is it's just Ian Altman. So my website is ianaltman.com. My Twitter handle is Ian Altman. If you Google Ian Altman, I think I'm all that comes up for several pages. So, and I'm happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it happens to be. The audiences I work with are almost always B2B companies, and it's either businesses where they're trying to engage their non-sales people. So they say, wow, 90% of our sales force or of our business is people who aren't in sales. How do we get them engaged to help move the needle for business opportunities? Or it's people in sales who say, wow, my customer is only focused on price instead of value, or we've got great stuff, but I can't capture the attention of our ideal clients. So how do we do that? And through trends and through other research I've done on how people make and approve decisions, I help them align their sales and marketing for an approach to selling that everybody can embrace, even the customer. So that's the big picture of it. And it's interesting because I work with companies, I'll work with businesses that range from, I've spoken to groups as small as 5 and into the thousands and everywhere in between. So sometimes the smaller ones, it's more fun because I can move the needle faster for them. If you help a large company add $50 million, they may not care.
Let's hope not. Let's hope that's not ever the case. Well, Ian, it was really great getting to know you. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate your insights.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.